All right, hello everyone. My name is Rishabh. I'm a 22-year-old university student based in Singapore. When I was 20, I was diagnosed with CTEPH, and today I'm going to share my experiences with you and explain how I was affected mentally and how I coped over the months. So, just a bit about me before being diagnosed with CTEPH. I was very fit and healthy. I was especially passionate about running, and I unfortunately experienced a fast drop in stamina that quickly turned to fainting spells or syncope. And before I knew it, I was practically bedridden, couldn't climb stairs without passing out effectively, which was extremely distressing for my family and me. Thankfully, I was cured within 9 months after undergoing nine BPA procedures, four in Singapore and five in Japan under Dr. Matsubara, who is one of the pioneers in the field. It's been just over 2 years since my last BPA. I'm now fully fit. I regularly play football, which is something I couldn't even have imagined doing back then. And I'm finishing my degree and ready to start my career in Singapore soon. A very brief outline of what I'll be discussing today. I'll start by touching on the run into my diagnosis, and then I'll talk about what it was like living with CTEPH before talking about my life after I was cured. And finally, I'll finish with some key takeaways. So I began my mandatory army service in Singapore in September 2020, shortly after I turned 18. And I led a very active lifestyle. I had no issues with exertion until near the end of my service, when I noticed a slight dip in stamina, which I didn't think much of until I began experiencing near fainting episodes or syncopes. In August 2022, so a month after I'd finished my service, I fainted while running with my friends in the rain, which was terrifying. I'd never experienced anything like that before. My parents and I, we were extremely worried and we rushed to see a pulmonologist thinking it was a lung issue. And I was misdiagnosed with asthma at the time and put on an inhaler, which is a very common misdiagnosis of CTEPH. But my condition unfortunately worsened. Climbing stairs became a struggle, walking like medium to long distances, like more than maybe 100, 200 meters became a struggle. And fearing it was something more serious, we returned to the doctor. He suspected cardiovascular issue and referred us to a cardiologist. And after several tests that were on the same day, including a right heart study, I was diagnosed with CTEPH. Now, this was, of course, devastating for my parents and me, and we were frantically trying to understand my condition and my options. My coping mechanism was to sort of keep myself busy, which I did through my friends and family, who I'm so thankful for. My parents coped through other means. So, for instance, my dad, he found solace in the science and he spent sleepless nights reading into pulmonary hypertension in hopes of one, obviously finding a cure and this reading about different ideas, but he also found comfort in engaging with the science. Following my diagnosis, we were told that the standard protocol is to get started on blood thinners or anticoagulants and monitor progress for 3 months, only after which will we consider surgical interventions. So, despite having a plan, those 3 months were incredibly difficult for my family and me. There was virtually no improvement physically or emotionally, and I found it hard to stay optimistic. It really felt like I was being stripped of life's basic joys. I briefly sought psychiatric help, which is extremely beneficial. I get that there's sometimes stigma surrounding mental health, but I didn't let that stop me at the time, and it truly went a long way. In November 2022, so 2 months after I'd been diagnosed, my condition unfortunately worsened, which prompted my doctors to accelerate surgical intervention. And there were two options. There was the BPA and the PEA. To my family and me, after we had done a lot of reading and research and consulting with doctors, we didn't feel as if the PEA delivered superior results, and we were also hesitant to undergo the highly invasive nature of the PEA. So hence we instead opted to do the BPA. I should stress that I have no medical background, and this is just my opinion as a former patient. I had four BPAs in Singapore between November 2022 and January 2023. We only saw slight improvement. BPA the reason is because the BPA is a very complicated procedure that requires a high level of expertise, which is harder to acquire in a country as small as Singapore, where you're going to get fewer CTEPH patients. So we waited another month, but with modest progress, my father reached out to Dr. Matsubara in Japan. Dr. Matsubara is a pioneer of BPA. He has over 4,000 procedures under his belt, and thankfully he replied immediately. And by late February, we were with him in Okayama. So that period between January and February was especially dark. My symptoms persisted, and I developed something called Ortner syndrome, which was caused by the significant dilation of my heart, to the point where it pressed against a nerve in my voice box. So that results in a very hoarse voice. I couldn't shout, for example, or raise my voice. I had also lost a significant amount of weight, as you can see in the top picture, how skinny I'd become. I lost around 15 kilograms. Like I said, I tried my best to continue with life despite these obstacles. I stayed in university, continued my studies. I tried to meet my friends whenever I could. And juggling university with such a condition sounds rough, but I was determined to not fall behind my peers. It was a coping mechanism for me in the sense that it allowed me to think about other things rather than my illness. Some small things like going to coffee shops, the libraries to study really helped me recoup hints of normalcy. Thankfully, this period of uncertainty was short-lived for my parents and me, because as soon as I finished my first set of BPAs in Okayama, I had two sets. I did two in February. As soon as I finished my first two in Okayama, I noticed significant improvements. I could climb stairs, I could walk long distances. I was able to run a few meters till I catch the bus. I could do normal people things basically. And it was such a relief for us. My dad described me walking around Osaka a couple of days after my first set of BPAs with no exertion intolerance as the happiest moment of his life. So we went back to Japan in May after my final exams for another set of BPAs. I did three more over the course of 8 days between February and May, and I was able to live a normal life. After that, I was fully cured. I'm now fit and healthy. I have no constraints. The only medication I have to take is warfarin anticoagulants, which will be there for the rest of my life. But aside from that, I'm leading a perfectly normal life. I'm playing football, going to the gym, going on runs. I spent my last semester in the US at the University of Pennsylvania on an exchange semester. I'm now back in Singapore, ready to start my final year in a couple of months, final year of university. I'm so eternally grateful to Dr. Matsubara for curing me, for giving me my life back. I'm so immensely thankful to my parents too. My parents are my rocks. My dad especially. He spent countless sleepless nights researching and bearing copious amounts of stress, which led him to find Dr. Matsubara. So I seriously owe my life and my happiness today to my parents and Dr. Matsubara. So just some key takeaways and a bit more about my personal journey. I was diagnosed with CTEPH during my first year of college, which was devastating, of course, my parents and me. Following diagnosis, I kept myself busy and worked around my constraints to try and lead as normal a life as I could have. For instance, I didn't give up on my studies. I would get out of the house as much as I could as well, even if it was just to a nearby coffee shop or library, restaurant. I would also invite my friends over. So just to sort of keep every hint of normal life that I still had. I also wasn't afraid to seek psychiatric help, which is something that's sort of taboo, but I think it's only natural to have mental health struggles while battling a life-threatening condition. And seeing a psychiatrist helped me greatly. It helped me stay positive as well. Despite rapid deteriorations, I was able to remain optimistic. My family and I also researched thoroughly, which is very important, I feel. Some of the things that we have to pay attention to is one, finding the right specialist, because a condition like CTEPH is so niche. It's very important, I believe, to find a doctor that knows exactly what you're dealing with. And two, weighing up the pros and cons of BPA and PEA so you can make an informed decision. Of course, the doctor's opinion matters too, but it is your decision at the end of the day. And lastly, and most importantly, I was extremely lucky to have the best support system I could have asked for. I relied on them heavily. I spoke to my friends and family a lot and expressed my mental health concerns, which was super helpful. My friends, my family, my parents, they've all been so supportive throughout. I'll forever be grateful. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this was helpful or somewhat inspiring. If you're going through CTEPH or any sort of medical condition, or you know someone that's going through any sort of medical condition, Stay strong, never give up. And if you're watching this, you have any questions, please don't hesitate to drop me an email. Thank you.